How to make a proper mental health diagnosis. The process is complex. However, there is a critical aspect that must always be there, and that is the presence of the subject. No one can make a mental health diagnosis without the presence of the patient. In this video, I'll explain why. There are 3 critical steps needed to be able to decide if someone's actions are evidence of that person suffering from a mental health issue. As explained in past reports, an action by itself doesn't mean much. For example, if one person shoots another person, they could be a hero if that happens in a war. They could be a murderer if they shoot someone for an immoral reason, or they could be defending themselves, and in that scenario they don't pay for their crimes because it was an act of self-defense. The action is identical. They are shooting another person. However, the context changes everything. So the real value of an action is context plus action. Now, for making a mental health diagnosis, that is not enough. You need an extra step. You need to know the action, you need to know the context. However, you also need to know the thought processes behind the action, since that is the critical element that lets the mental health practitioner know if the subject has a mental health issue or not. And I'll provide a personal example. When I was in high school in the Netherlands, I told people from my home country, from Romania, so people who did not know the people from the high school in the Netherlands. So these were 2 separate groups of people who never talked to each other. So I told the people from Romania that one girl, Anne, from my high school was my girlfriend. And I will present this to you on the board. So this is the 3-step process. This was number 1. This was my action. I told people that Anne was my girlfriend. This is step number 1. Step number 2 is the context. So in what context did I say that? So the context is quite self-explanatory. Based on what I wrote here, Anne and Paul are strangers, so I was not together with Anne. If I develop on that, in that specific case, I liked Anne, but we were not together, we were strangers, we didn't know each other. But I told people that Anne was my girlfriend. So this is the action and this is the context. Now, based on the action and the context, I stated something that was false. And if I truly believed that, that made me delusional. Because I believed that a girl who was a stranger was my girlfriend. That is clearly something that only someone who would be delusional would believe. However, this is only action plus the context. The third element, which is my thought processes, does not appear here. So this action could have multiple causative elements. It could be caused by multiple things. As explained here, the third step. So this is the thought process. This consists of the causative element behind the statement. So what made me, why did I make that statement? And this requires a confrontation. Otherwise, this step cannot be completed and a mental health diagnosis cannot be made. And the only way to do this is for a mental health practitioner to confront me about this specific case. So they present the actions, which are the action plus the context, which is this, and then they say, Paul, what is the causative element behind this action? And then I would have to explain myself, and based on my explanation, so based on how I explain my thought process, the mental health practitioner can make a diagnosis, but only then. Because up to that point, they are not aware of the causal development behind my statement, and that is the most important aspect of the three-step process. So it could be that I was delusional, indeed. It could be that I believed that Anne was my girlfriend, even though we were complete strangers, and that would have made me delusional. But that was only one option. There were many other options. For example, it could have been that I just wanted to show off, and I told people that I had a girlfriend even though I didn't. That could be that's another option, and there are many other options. It could be that I was a bad person and I wanted to spread false rumors just to create confusion and problems and all sorts of things. So that could have been one option. It would have proven that I was a bad person, but it would have also proven that I was not mentally ill. So irrespective of the causal development, no one had the right to decide what that causal development was without checking my thought processes. So the mental health practitioner had to verify why I said that. If they didn't, they had no right to make a mental health diagnosis. So now, in reality, the causal development was, well, it proved that I was mentally healthy. In reality, I told people that Anne was my girlfriend because I wanted to let them know that I liked her, but I didn't want to let them know that I wasn't talking to her and that I was failing in my attempts to get together with her. So because I didn't want to tell them about that embarrassment aspect of my infatuation with Anne, I simply told them that Anne was my girlfriend. That explains my action, and it proves that I was not mentally ill. It proves that I was mentally healthy, and it provides an explanation regarding why I made a false statement. However, once more, the mental health practitioner does not have the right to decide what that causal development is without verifying. They have to verify it. Now, this exact three-step process applies to everything. So irrespective of the situation, the mental health practitioner does not have the right to make a diagnosis before checking the thought processes of the subject. I'll give you another example. A few years ago, I stated that a group of hackers was monitoring me, and they were attacking me with small cyber attacks, and it was a complex series of stories. And that series of stories was not supported by clear evidence, so there wasn't evidence of that group actually existing. And that was just step number one plus step number two. So it was my action, my statement, plus the objective facts. Maybe the group exists, but there is no evidence that it exists, so we don't know if it exists. We also don't know if Paul is correct or if he's incorrect. And in either scenario, so maybe Paul is correct, Paul is incorrect, maybe the group exists, maybe it doesn't exist, it doesn't matter. Because none of these elements dictate whether I am mentally healthy or mentally ill. The third aspect of this three-step process does that, my thought process. So a mental health practitioner must ask, Paul, you posted that or you said that. Do you really believe that a group of hackers is monitoring you and attacking you? And explain yourself, explain your thought processes. And then I would explain my thought processes, and if my thought processes prove that there is a problem with how I think and it makes me delusional, then indeed the mental health practitioner has the possibility to make a diagnosis. However, it could be that there are other causal developments that caused that result. It could have been that I got drunk and then I just wanted to make up a funny story and then I posted it online. It could be. There are hundreds of potential causal developments, and no one has the right to decide which of these potential causal developments is the real one. They can only do that, so a mental health practitioner can only do that after they confront me about it. And no one has ever done that about anything at any point in time. And as a result, no one ever had the right to make an official diagnosis based on this incomplete information, which by itself did not prove anything. It did not prove that there was a mental health issue of any kind, because the pieces of information were missing this third aspect, this very important third aspect: my thought processes. This is how a mental health diagnosis is made. It is not possible to make a mental health diagnosis without verifying the thought process.